Mention the name Howell in Georgia, and you think of tennis. And even though he was the fifth of the 6 Howell kids, Peter was destined to play the game his whole family loved from day one.
As a young boy, I think he enjoyed more hitting the ball as hard as he could and seeing how far he could throw his racket from time to time. But Peter was the 5th child in our family. I was the 4th, so I've seen his development from day one. One of the first stories I remember, I think I was 8 and he was 7. And so I was the experienced one, and we were playing doubles. Being the competitor I was, and Peter was new to tennis, he had to serve and return serve. Other than that, I wanted him out of the way. So I put him up near the net. But Peter tended to get distracted, and he would hit his racket against the net and wander around, which would cost us a point when he hit the net. So I moved him behind me, behind the baseline, and drew an X there and told him to stand there. And if he didn't do what I told him, I would tell his mother.
Peter's game would evolve to the point where he held the top 2 singles and #1 doubles ranking in the state for most of his junior career. After going undefeated in his senior year at Episcopal High School, Peter opted to continue his career at Vanderbilt, where he eventually became captain and MVP of the Commodores' 1970 team.
But one of the first times I ever met Peter was a college tennis match. And Vanderbilt came to play Oglethorpe, which I happened to play for. And I played Peter. We had a pretty good match and had a pretty good win. And what had happened, he had played the day before against the great University of Georgia team with several college All-Americans. He played Norman Holmes and had double match point, lost 10-8 in the third to Norman Holmes, college All-American at UGA. Next day he comes over to Little Oglethorpe and he plays me, and the way Peter tells it, Woody beat me 6-1, 6-2, and it wasn't that close. And what was the worst part, and he still tells this story, it's the worst loss of his life, and he still claims that today. And either his coach or one of his players pulled him aside afterward and said, Peter, yeah, tough match today. You almost had Norman yesterday, and now you're playing Woody. I don't want to tell you this, but I have to. Woody came down to Oglethorpe from Boston on a hockey scholarship. He found out there wasn't a hockey team at Oglethorpe, and he went out for the tennis team. So that's who you lost to today, but don't worry, there's another match another day.
After graduating from Vanderbilt, Peter returned home to become the tennis director at the Atlanta Athletic Club, where his vision transformed the facility. But at the same time, it also brought a new love into his life, which was teaching the game of tennis to the next generation.
You took me under your wing as a doubles partner when I was a young tennis professional. I can remember playing a match with you down in Ponte Vedra, Florida at the USPTA National Championships. And I remember us in the warm-up, we'd won a few rounds and we were warming up for a match probably in about the quarterfinals or so, and you took me back to the baseline and put your arm around you and said, Randy, these guys are a lot better than we are. He said, I don't think we can play up to their level, but why don't you back up here at the baseline with me, and maybe if we can get enough balls back, we can bring them down to our level.
I was thinking about the many contributions that you've made and the things that we've shared. And one thing that I can remember that was so special was back in, gosh, it must have been like the late 80s, early 90s. And you were the chairman of the grievance committee. And we had a young man, a young junior player who was a real good player, but he really acted out on the court. He did his John McEnroe act. And you decided to bring him in and his dad and just talk to them. And we met with them late one afternoon at the office. And you just talked about the game, not so much the winning and losing, but just all aspects of the game, the sportsmanship and the wonderful camaraderie that tennis brings out in people. And after you finished talking, I thought, well, that's just a real testimonial of what you think of tennis, which is sportsmanship and all of the wonderful things that tennis brings. And the good news is we never heard any more from this kid or from any of the tournament directors talking about his bad behavior. So I think it speaks well to what you thought of the game.
Even though Peter found his passion for instructing, he still enjoyed success as a player. And he teamed up with the man who gave him his worst loss of his life. They went on to win several tournaments and were ranked in the top 5 nationally in the 35s and 40s for 5 straight years. But in 2003, his love of coaching brought him to Oglethorpe University, where he's head coach for both the men's and women's teams. and impacting lives on and off the court.
Cares so much about every single person on his team as an individual, and I think that shows so much as him as a coach. I can't imagine what my life would be like today or my past 2 years if I did not have Coach Howell.
He knows every bit of the game, the X's and O's of the game, the technique of the game, but more importantly, and I think this is the most important thing he brings to the table with our athletes, he really understands the mental side of the game, and he has done remarkable things with some incredible athletes at our school.
It's given me the true experience to know that a coach can be more than just a tennis coach. He can be, a father figure. He can be a mentor and also an idol to look up to, because he really has a wonderful story and he's been through so much.
Over his tennis career, Peter's made an impression on the game, as well as the people around him. And there's no one more deserving to go into the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame than Peter Howell.
I can't thank you enough for not only being a friend and a mentor to me through the years, but you've made me a lot better person by just being a friend to me, and I can't thank you enough for it. Congratulations on this honor tonight. I wish you the best in your continued success in tennis, especially with in your role as the coach and assistant athletic director over at Oglethorpe, and go Stormy Petrels.
I just want to congratulate you and just tell you that you belong in the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame, and I'm just so happy for you.
I could go on and on about Peter. Probably one thing that's said a lot, which is a compliment to Peter. I'm not sure about the rest of the Howells, but he's known as the nice one, of the Howell family. But I enjoy playing with Peter. He's overcome a lot. Between his ailments and mine now, we need to win in straight sets when we play, but he's so good at the net, sometimes we can do it. But anyhow, I really do want to sincerely congratulate Peter. He's contributed a tremendous amount to tennis in Georgia, both on and off the court. And I know my entire family is happy for him.
Peter, what I really wanted to say is you've made a difference. Your commitment, involvement, and contributions to Georgia tennis have made a difference, and no one is more deserving of this selection.
When I think of Peter, though, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think of his great tennis playing. I think of Peter as a person who had a passion for tennis. Congratulations, Peter. Well deserved. Marvelous tennis person. When I think of Georgia tennis, I think of Peter Howell.
Great doubles partner, no neck droops, no eye rolls, no racket drops, just a good supportive partner, and I appreciate all he did for me and also all those great things he did for tennis in Georgia. Well deserving, Peter, you're getting this award. I'm proud of you, and we look forward to seeing you holding the award up there on stage.
Congratulations to Peter Howell, a 2010 inductee into the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame.